Good afternoon from Quartzsite, Arizona, guys. Hope you're having a great day. We are here at the Escapers Convergence still and having a great time.
So today we're going to share with you the best, or I guess depending on how you look at it, the worst RV fails we've ever had.
And we've had a few.
Yeah, the list actually kind of got a little
Yeah,
on the
we came
long
up with
side.
the idea, and we make notes in our phone, and it's like, oh, this, and this, and this, like, oh, wow.
And
So let's
this,
just jump right
and
in. So I'm going to start off with one of my personal worst fails. In the wintertime, and when we're home in Alaska, we don't really use the motorhome because the roads are all iced over. But I disconnect the batteries when it's sitting in our driveway for those 5 months. So one spring, I de-winterize the RV and I hook everything back up and our slide out's not working. I go through everything. I even call Tiffin and speak to a guy in their technical center who's super helpful. And we troubleshot stuff. And I even bought a new module and didn't fix it.
For almost the whole summer season, when we wanted to put the slide out, Ben would have to go outside of the RV, underneath the slide, and like hot wire.
Yeah, put a jumper wire across 2 terminals.
To get this slide to go out.
Yeah, well, they were actually booked. So RV service centers in Alaska are booked up in the summer.
Months in advance.
But it turns out that the error was mine, and the wires for the slide out, I didn't put them back in the right location when I rehooked up the battery. So they charged me a half-hour labor for my oops, but that's it.
To
It
tell
happened-
us we'd crossed the wires.
It happens to everybody.
Since we're starting out with our epic RV fails, this one's mine. And this. And that.
So here's the story. We're driving down a dirt road and we come across a creek, not a river, but a creek. And it's a very tight, pretty much 1-lane dirt road. And we're in the motorhome, trailer loaded up, and we hit this creek and we just don't want to cross it. So we end up having to unload the ATV off the trailer, unhook the trailer from the motorhome, hook the trailer up to the ATV.
After Ben did a 29-point turn to get the RV turned around, I followed him with the ATV and trailer.
So here's where you're gonna have to use your imagination because we're not driving it right now. I'm up here in the driver's seat. Beck is back there with the ATV and the trailer. So I get turned around and I would say, hey honey, come on up so we can regroup.
So I'm driving along and I think I even waved at Ben.
Oh, you waved.
But then I kind of forgot that I wasn't just driving the ATV, that there was a wider trailer behind me. As long as we're back here talking about the bumper, we might as well talk about one of Ben's other fails. So it's kind of hard to tell what happened because my Uncle JJ just fixed this for us when we were in Yuma.
He insisted, but I put up with it for about 4 years.
Yeah. So the very first winter that we had the RV, we had a horrible storm at the house and we lost power in the house and we decided to stay in the RV.
And in Seward, we get a lot of rain, snow, and ice. So this right here was frozen into a block of ice. I didn't know it at the time, but when I leveled out, the little rock guard stayed in the ice and the whole bumper motorhome came up. So there's a lot of stuff that I guess has happened in the back of this motorhome. Maybe there's a lot of junk in our trunk here, but for years, and I just fixed this before this trip, we would get dust in our bedroom and I had no idea where it was coming from. But before this trip, I totally disassembled the bed and I lifted up our water tank and I found underneath here, so you guys see all that spray foam insulation right at the back fiberglass of the motorhome, but there were gaps in that insulation. So every single mile we drove down the open road, dust from the front wheels, rear wheels, and everything just getting stirred up the whole length of the motorhome would kind of get sucked into our bedroom, and we dealt with the dustiest bedroom for a long time. But thankfully, I took all that apart this fall and I was able to spray some more of that kind of expanding foam sealant stuff in there and problem solved.
I suppose a lot of our RV fails could be summed up to say, why did we wait so long to fix that? And the next one on the list are the RV struts. For the bed. When we bought the RV, the struts on the bed didn't work. Always was a 2-person job to go in and get anything out of the storage space. And before we left on the North American road trip 2 falls ago, Ben ordered the parts for like $20 and fixed it.
And it was like 3 minutes of labor. And we put up with this for years. You don't know how inconveniencing it was and how cheap it was to fix. So the next fail has to do with one of the valves in our plumbing system. For up until like December of 2015, we put up with a water pump that kept priming itself about every 5 to 10 minutes. And there was a valve that you can open up in the back to kind of have your water pump out of the tank onto the ground. Well, we met with Josh and Marie from Ardent Camper when we were in the Houston area, and they said they were getting this piece replaced on their motorhome because the water pump kept priming. So I'm like, hey, maybe I just need to check mine out. So I go back there and I wrench that thing down awfully tight. I fixed the problem. So for years, we were putting up with a water pump going brrr, brrr, and now it's fixed just by cranking down a valve a little bit tighter. This isn't a fail, but if you're wondering where our sticker board went, these little sticky tabs kind of wore off and we need to re-adhere it, but that's not a fail.
So this final one that I'm going to talk about is probably our most epic fail in terms of game changer and comfort. We waited until this fall to put a new couch in the RV. And given how much time we spend in the RV and work in the RV, it has been an absolute life changer for us. And we just waited forever. I don't even know why now. No reason.
So yeah, one of our biggest tips now is to just get rid of that couch if it's not comfortable, and make sure that you have two places, if it's just two of you, that, or one if it's just one of you, that you can be completely comfortable in your motorhome. There is no reason when you're living in your motorhome for extended periods of time that you should not be comfortable.
Yeah. Or fix the little tiny things, you know, like the struts were $20 to fix and took 3 minutes. I don't know why we waited forever.
Yeah, I kind of hope you can learn from some of these mistakes and just nip them in the bud. All right, so the last fail has to do with the transmission on this motorhome. I'll make it short, but we bought the motorhome. I test drove it around for about 25 miles. It drove great. It went uphill, it went downhill just fine. So 12 miles out of our town, there's a grade called Divide Pass. And I'm one of those people, when I'm going down a grade, I like to grab gears. So I'll drop it down into 2, or if it's really extreme, 1. That way we're not riding the brakes. So I do this, I drop it down a gear and the transmission neutralizes. It drops down to about 800 RPMs, like idling range, and we're just freewheeling down the pass. It's not a ridiculously steep pass, and I still had my brakes, so there was no danger, but there was a real issue.
And remember, this is our first drive home.
So there was no warranty because we bought it from a private party in 2011, and it was out of warranty. And I genuinely think this guy had no freaking clue on how to operate the vehicle, so he probably never grabbed gears. And I could honestly say in my heart, I can read people, that he had no clue that there was actually a problem with this transmission. So as you guys may know, I used to work for Ford as a service writer, and I have a lot of good friends that are technicians. And one of them retired, my old buddy Gene. So for the price of a plane ticket, we flew Gene up. He picked up an overhaul kit for the transmission, picked up a shift kit, and we took the transmission out and overhauled it in the driveway in our garage, which is not a fun task on a gravel driveway. So Gene goes through it, you know, sees some things that are just not right, like wearing out. We put it all back together. We put it in, same condition exists. So we pull the transmission back out, reopen it up. Everything looks fine. That's time number 2. Put it back together, and okay, it doesn't work. It's still the same condition. Now we're really scratching our heads, and it turns out that there was a part that was misbuilt from Ford on the transmission, and I don't even know what the name of the part was. And a local transmission shop in Anchorage had one of the parts that we needed that had this correct little piece on there to make it work right. And then we went back to Seward, put it in, and by this time we're on number 3, but we're frayed, and we got sloppy, and the torque converter pump seal, we didn't have that seal lined up. So we started up, and transmission fluid starts dumping out of the transmission, which makes number 4. But fortunately, we fixed that. 4th time's a charm, and we're all good now. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Hope these tips help you and save you a little time and maybe even give you a laugh.